Hi everyone, welcome to Denniston. Our cache walk today is about the Denniston Incline. It's a fascinating place.
Denniston is an old coal mine, and the incline was a railway line taking the coal down to the coast where it could be shipped around the world. It's a really interesting place to look around, so come and have a look with us.
Before heading up to the Denniston Plateau and the incline, we called into the Coal Museum in Westport to learn a little more about it. It's a great little museum with interesting objects and stories about life on the coalfields. They have a coal wagon set up to show how steep the incline was. They also have an original brake drum that controlled the coal wagon's descent from Denniston. There is even a reconstruction of a mine tunnel and of course coal. It was a tough life for the miners, and they banded together in unions for support.
Great worth. And of the many coalfields found in New Zealand from the middle of the 19th century onwards, the ones on the west coast of the South Island were to become the most famous. Industry was hungry for coal, and in particular, West Coast coal. But of all the mines in the Buller district, perhaps the most famous were those on the Denniston Plateau, over 2,000 feet above sea level. It was really life in the raw, high on a windswept plateau where little grew, and there was no protection from the ice and sleet of winter. Under this inhospitable exterior was the coal that the world sought. But how was it to be brought down from its high plateau? The solution came in the construction of an inclined railway which descended for 1,700 feet to join the railway to Westport. The Denniston Breakhead and the starting place for the semi-vertical drop to the railway sidings 1,700 feet below. The system is the same as its day of inception, self-powered, with a laden truck going down, pulling an empty truck up. The trucks are connected by a continuous cable controlled by a hydraulic brake drum. The trip down is fast, over grades that at the most severe reach 1 in 1 1/3. Sometimes, of course, there were runaways, particularly in the early days when periodically the brakes snapped at the top and the brakemen and everyone else near had to run for their lives. In the early days, everyone used the incline, even the women, who would often walk up over trestle work 30 feet high, carrying children in their arms and often leading another by the hand. But until the track was formed up the hill, this was the only way. Even later, supplies still went up and coffins always came down in the coal trucks.
After learning more about it, we headed up the rather narrow, windy road to the Denniston Plateau, keeping a sharp lookout for coal trucks that locals say still use the road from time to time. All clear today. At the car park at the top, we met a flightless weka and her 2 chicks. There were some very interesting information boards for visitors. It was here we learnt that there were no flush toilets in Denniston, nor any long drops. The rocky ground was too hard to dig. Everything went into a can under a wooden seat, which was emptied once a week, except for a 2-week break over Christmas. You had to be tough back then. We passed old machinery for the aerial ropeway that brought coal to the start of the incline. The buildings are long gone, but the rails at the top of the incline are still in place.
You get a great view out towards the Tasman Sea. Here you begin to get an idea of just how steep it was. At its steepest, it was 80%. We decided to fly our drone so you can see what remains of the incline.
An average of 15 wagons an hour each way. The total coal carried was 12.6 million tonnes over the lifetime of the incline. There were deaths here. One 33-year-old was run over by a rail wagon. A 12-year-old boy tried riding an empty wagon and was found dead under a trestle bridge with a severed leg.
Paul Bryan said, "One of the most dreadful things on the incline were runaways. It's an awesome sight when you see them go. There's no noise, they just go."
The Department of Conservation has put up a viewing platform where you can get a view of the incline that's almost as good as the drones. The first geocache is a nice easy find near the observation platform.
The next cache was at the site of an old cottage. Our GPS had us looking further away, but the cache name led us to the find.
Okay, first 2019. And look at the little ladybug that was in the container. Isn't that cute?
We headed down to see the stone arches built to support a tramway from the Banbury mine entrance.
"What are you doing, you nosy wecker? What are you doing today? Are you coming out to get food from us, or just coming out to play?" "What are you doing, you naughty wecker? Stop pecking at Rick's feet. Go back into the bush to find seeds and insects to eat."
We read the information panel, then went off to find our third geocache for the day. Here we had another encounter with our naughty wecker.
Our fourth cache was on a rock wall. But which rock?
There's the logbook site and there's a trackable. So we'll take the little trackable with us. See where it wants to go.
The fifth cache was near the base of a tower for an aerial ropeway.
Not as steep as the 80% of the incline, but steep enough. We headed down to Westport for our final cache of the day.
At the bottom of the incline, the trucks roll onto the railway siding for haulage to Westport.
Cache was a good one with a nice hint, as there are a lot of places on these old coal wagons to hide a magnetic mint in.
We had our dinner in a restaurant called the Denniston Dog and tried a new beer. Mine is black.
That brings us to the end of our cache walk at Denniston, the coal mine and the incline. Some interesting facts about the people living here. Boy, it must have been a really tough place to live during the winter particularly.
Definitely would have been, yes.
Anyway, thanks for watching.
And don't forget to go geocaching.